Tag zusammen! Hello! Hello again! Dare to be alive! We just heard from a almost centenarian, von einem fast 100-Jährigen, how to be curious all life long. And I think at the end of 2 really intense and exhausting days, I'm really proud to have such a crowd. Give yourself a big round of applause that you're still here. Actually, I was thinking Steffi would introduce us, but I introduced myself. Who am I? Eckart von Hirschhausen. You have sometimes during this conference you have to check who you are. I'm a physician. I was trained as a medical doctor, but then I turned careers around to become a stand-up comedian, and now I'm an advocate for planetary health. And I'm really keen on giving you this short talk and a discussion with Auguste von Bayern. Where are you? Auguste is here. An ornithologist and a Royal Highness. And Sandrine is busy connecting. Yeah, let's be honest. This DLD is not about the talks. It's about connecting with people who are more interesting than the ones on stage. Including yourself. The president of a club of Rome is here. So, as a doctor, I want you to do something really simple. Take your own pulse. Do you know how that does? Take 3 fingers, feel. Are you alive? And if that's okay with the person next to you, feel the pulse of the person next to you. Because after all this talk on AI, I want to talk about the things that we share that are human. And the biggest daring things that I dare to ask you is put away your phones. I came here to speak with you in person. I came here because a personal meeting with Jane Goddall changed my life 5 years ago. And my humble aim for this talk is that each one of you goes out tonight and has one new thought of this half an hour. Is that okay? Put away your phones and let yourself be touched. This was the woman who touched my heart. Who knows who she is? Yeah, many of you had the chance to see her alive. And this was 5 years ago. And she has always been on my bucket list. As a science journalist, I always wanted to get to know her. And in the middle of the conversation, she turned around the tables and asked me a question. And this question is the question that I want you to listen to. Is the most basic question. She has been a researcher on our closest relatives, on chimpanzees. And she said, when we human beings always stress that we are the most intelligent species on Earth, why are we destroying our own home? Very simple, but really important question. And I was sitting there and I felt, think about this. I felt this is not the time to rush to a cheap answer. This is the biggest question that we all have to answer in the 21st century. I'm a big fan of Viktor Frankl, and this loses in translation, but being responsible means to give an answer in your life to a question that life asks you. And so, I put the question in a different way. Raise your arms. Who of you shits into your own sofa, in your own living room? No one? Surprise, surprise. I've been asking this question to all sorts of audiences around the world, but nobody raises their arm. Although we would know how to do it. And many of you could afford it. And still, we don't do it. Why? Because our living room is something holy to us. It's dear to us. We want to have a good time. When you just imagine yourself for 3 seconds in your own living room, open the window, open the door, open your heart, and we all know this is our living room. It's the only living room that we have. As a physician, I was trained to analyze the pulse and the vital signs. How are the vital signs of Mother Earth today? Health, my profession, doesn't start with a medical drug or an operation, or not even with an MRI with artificial intelligence. It's good that we have that to diagnose lung cancer, but wouldn't it be better not to get lung cancer in the first place if we have renewable energy, not polluting over and over again people's air to breathe with particulate matter, with Feinstaub? So health starts with 5 really simple things: with the air we breathe, with the water we drink, with the plants we can eat, with a bearable temperature, to keep your core temperature below 42 degrees, and peace. And every day in the news we can see all 5 dimensions of health are in acute danger. Nothing of this is no longer taken for granted. That's why I'm here. We have to move from personal health to planetary health. We have to take the stethoscope and put it on your own pulse, the next person's pulse, and the global pulse. This is planetary health in a nutshell. And so I changed my career from being a comedian into being an advocate. This was the Scientists for Future Foundation on 2019. And this is how we behave. The world is burning, and we think, oh, there's so much to do, we have to finish our round first. And the science is so clear, but the psychology is much more interesting. The psychology says climate change isn't real. Okay, climate change is real, we're just not convinced it's caused by humans. Then we entered the oops phase, and now we're at fuck. And the hardest thing for me to understand was research shows that showing people research does not work. I'm a member of Club of Rome, and we'll talk about this later on. The advice was there for more than 50 years. Why didn't we take it serious? Because we were talking about polar bears, we were talking about chemistry in the atmosphere, we were talking about a future sometime, and all this did was distancing. We never talked about health. How is this affecting me, my partner, my children, my grandparents? So, dare to look up. Who of you saw Don't Look Up at Netflix? It's such a great movie, and it's so true. So dare to look. And dare to look that the SDG agenda only makes sense if we don't fuck up the biosphere. All the things that we want to be proud of, all the things that society and economy and a good life mean, are wasted and nothing if we don't allow the basis to be kept. And the polar bear is not the most endangered species, it's ourselves. We don't have to save the world or to save the climate, we have to save ourselves. That's the reason why this idea of Johan Rockström with the planetary boundaries is so important. We talked about freedom a lot during this conference. What exactly do you mean by freedom? Is it the freedom in the Statue of Liberty City, New York City? This is this summer. You took out the mask that you had from COVID because you couldn't breathe, the forest was burning in Canada. And still we think freedom is going everywhere with a plane really fast. The freedom in the 21st century is if you can stay where you are. And this will not be the case for a third of the world population, IPCC report. And people think about vacations a lot. Did you want to be in Greece this summer? Where are you going this summer? We used to fly into the sun, into the warm climate from Germany. Today, I'm thinking, well, where is it cool enough to really enjoy summer? What about all the loss and damage that we had already caused in the global south? Big topic at COP. And we're not alone on this planet. What is this doing to all the creation, to all the biodiversity we just talked about? The big threat to the animals is not poaching anymore, it's drought. Have you ever been to an open coal mine? This changes what we think and feel. When you just ask yourself a very simple question, where is all this heavy stuff that's missing there? The answer is above. CO2 means carbon plus 2 oxygen molecule and up in the air. It's invisible for us, but not for the Hitzestrahlung. I want to have something, heat radiation. So, as we just heard, these are natural laws. They are not to be discussed. This is the River Rhine this summer. I was sitting there and I was almost crying because I learned that the River Rhine is a mighty being, der Vater Rhein, and it was so thin. And then I was invited to a talk show with our Verkehrsminister, the Minister of Transport, and he said, well, we have to dig deeper. And I said, no, this is not going to make the water more, it's just flowing deeper. And this is the level that our government thinks about natural science. We're very close to the Alps. Did you get this story? That 200 meters of a mountain came down this summer? I mean, in German we say felsenfest. If something is really convincing, it's felsenfest. That something, a mountain, will always be there. No. This part is missing now, including the cross. And as a Christian, this means something to me. Are we still thinking we're in the middle of the universe, or are we part of it? When we're thinking about Bavaria, we always think about Schröder and Aiwanger. Söder and Aiwanger. I thought, if Bavaria wants to be the California of Europe, why don't we start with the renewable energies? This joke was just for you. But we forgot that 1.6 million people in Bavaria stood up on a Sunday to vote for biodiversity. The status quo doesn't work. Today, the failure of natural systems is our single biggest risk to businesses, economies, and societies, and to our health. This is the land banking group that I can highly recommend. And if you are going to Davos, go to listen to Munich Re, go to listen to climate and health sessions. This is not any longer a leftish hysteria that we put it into this box for far too long. It's real. So fixing the planet can be a good business. This is the Extinction where I put some of my money. This is the Burning Issues Fund where I put another part. But the most expensive and the best thing you can invest in is good people around you. In German I say, es ist schwer, die Welt ehrenamtlich zu retten, solange andere sie hauptberuflich zerstören. And it loses in translation, but it goes like, it's hard to save the earth on a voluntary basis if other people are destroying it professionally. So we have to wake up and think of what can we do together, form new alliances, and this is what I love about DLD. Just standing there waiting for a coffee gives you another 10 great ideas. And dare to have fun. This is a good example of phosphate recycling at a festival in Denmark. Phosphate is a substance that is in the pipi, in the pee, that is in the beer, that you need in every dünger and every fertilizer, thank you. And this is cradle to cradle for beginners. Don't waste your piss, Danish farmers can turn it into beer again. And watch these men being really proud of being part of a circular economy. And it's something you don't forget, even with 2 promille. Could that work in Germany? I was there at the football cup in my hometown Berlin, Deutschland, Argentinien, Germany, Argentine. And I saw this, all the beer that was drunk there, and I suddenly understood what we sing in our national anthem, Ist des Glückes Unterpfand. Not translatable. But you don't have to be a doctor to know everything liquid that enters the body has to exit sometime. So the German people are using the toilet from outside, but fair enough. This is really the Toilettenwagen im Stadion. Watch this guy. He could piss anytime, anywhere on the lawn, but he waits until a place at the Toilettenwagen is free to share his part. So for the EM, the European Championship that comes to Germany, I wish we have phosphate recycling in every stadium, and for the next DLD, especially the DLD on biodiversity, I wish a phosphate recycling system in the House of Communication. Can we agree on this? So, to sum up, das teuerste, was wir jetzt tun können, ist nichts. We're talking about costs. Can we afford things? We have to ask the other way around. How expensive is it going to be to carry on doing not enough? And this is something Sandrine and I will be discussing later on. Think of how do we portray these topics in media? Is it only the catastrophe? Is it only the doom scrolling? Or are we showing how it's affecting people locally and where are the solutions? And they are there. So together with the Mercator Foundation, I put this research on my website. Please use it and tell the stories in a positive, constructive, journalistic way. We are the only people who can plan ahead. We're not very good at it, but we don't do it, nobody else will do it. I started with Jane Goddall, I will end with her. Ask her what is really human. It's to laugh. Chimpanzees can laugh. Is it social feelings? They have them too. But we are unique in the sense that we're the only species on Earth who can have an idea of the future, including Futur 2, future 2. Who do we want to have been when we're looking back at the end of our lives? And this is something that's really dear to me, and I ask a very personal question. Is anybody bearing a child or becoming a father or a grandfather in this room? You? Okay. So this is for you. This is, zum Lachen geboren means born to have a good laugh. And this reminds me that when we're thinking about the future, we anticipate, oh, carbon neutral by 2045. What does it mean? This child will be just beginning of the 20s, and everyone who has a child knows it goes like this. Who has a child of you? Who likes their children? Well, there are moments, but the children we're talking about are already born. It's not something in the far future, it's now. And these children will ask us, what did you know? 2024, what did you dare to know? In the medieval times, we had to believe what we didn't know. Today, we have to believe what we know. This is the difference. So, these children will ask us, what did you know? What was your Vermögen to change something? What was your leverage? What did you have? And how much did you get from knowing to action? and I wish that we all together have really good answers. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you very much. And now I want to have this applause for Auguste von Bayern. Can I have the next slide, please? Auguste, take place. This is Earth for All. We're going to talk about with Sandrine. But Auguste, you showed me this really nice picture of you with the parrot, because you're not only a Royal Highness, but you're also an ornithologist. And you were talking with parrots. How come?
I study intelligence of animals. And you actually gave me a fantastic research idea. So I'm going to investigate whether animals have Futur 2.
Oh, yeah.
At the moment, I'm investigating whether they can form intentions to do something in the future, and I think they can. And we're going to publish this soon. But yes, we've always been thinking that animals are... I really loved your slide, man in the middle and surrounded by black, and then man as part of the circle. I think we are part of the circle, and we must finally understand that we are part of the circle, part of life.
How old were you when you struck this idea?
I think fairly early, because I grew up, I had a lot of contact with nature. I'm actually a shy person. I don't like in the middle to be on stage. I prefer to be with animals.
Looking there already.
Yes, they're also all animals, that's true.
You had the chance to be in contact with nature very early on, and you were in contact with fascinating scientists. Who was influencing you at puberty?
Actually, we have a common source of inspiration, because one of the most influencing moments in my life has been the privilege to meet Jane Goddall when I was about 14, 15 years old. And I was invited by Irenaeus Eibelsfeld, an important ethologist. He celebrated his birthday and took me along, and I was the youngest person. I was very insecure. She spotted that and took me next to her, and so I sat, during the dinner, I sat next to her and could talk to her. And she's absolutely inspiring, and the main idea I took from her is that what you do makes a difference, and you can decide what difference you're going to have on this planet. And she's trying to empower children since back then with her youth organization, Roots and Shoots, to empower people to make a change, a positive change. And I think we need to continue that message of hope.
Yes, and there are many people who know her, but if you have the chance, she will be on Wednesday at Davos. Biodiversity is such a stupid word, because you can't grab it. It sounds very scientific. But how much do you feel that when a parrot, a species, is extinguished, that this is irreversible, that it's never going to come back?
Well, parrots are one of the particularly endangered group of birds, with 18 species threatened with extinction. And I'm actually working at the moment, I'm really working with 5 of those critically endangered species, and they're as clever as our closest relative, chimpanzees, and in fact as human children. And we know so little about their amazing intelligence, and they're going to be extinct in the wild if we don't do anything very soon. So this really, it's just one little example, but we need to act very fast, because I mean, for me, it's a privilege to get to know animals as individuals. It's very rewarding. And then you think in a different way about life, because you see a sparrow on the road and you know it's an individual. And we are extincting, we are causing such, even very common birds here in Europe are half of the bird species have declining, of the 11,000 bird species have declining populations. And 13% of all bird species are threatened with extinction. I mean, sparrows, you don't see sparrows very often anymore. And we are causing a big, there's a loss in abundance of bird species of 200 million here in Europe in the since the 80s.
Yeah, it's a very short time. And I like the idea that you see the individual in the sparrow, and I think it's also rewarding for the sparrow to know you.
Maybe. I don't know.
And the parrots are really essential for comedy. Just think of Monty Python without a parrot. So where would we be? How important is the communication? You're advocating for a new type of biodiversity museum close to your home in Nymphenburg. Why do we need this so dearly?
I think the lack of education, of environmental education, is one of the main reasons why we are so far, why we haven't advanced much quicker to act. I think the absolute basis is to know about all the problems, and science communication and environmental education is absolute key if you want to achieve action. And the Bavarian government is planning a project called, Steffi is always advocating for it, Biotopia, and Naturkunde Museum Bayern, and its central mission was maybe a little bit too modern for some Bavarians, but it's to reconfigure.
We are the California of Europe.
Yes.
Remember?
To reconfigure the relationship between humans and other species, so fitting exactly to your slide, the circles.
No, I'm really part of the circle, and I hope many of you support this idea to have a place where you can interact as well as a communication platform on this really life-essential topic. And is it true that there will be a DLD on biodiversity?
I very much hope so. I count on Steffi that this is going to take place in the end of May. So let's...
Are we all attending? Yes. And Auguste, I want to give you something that is unique because this is out of print and I bought it on the internet. It's for more than it was worth. This is a book that changed my perception of birds when I was 13. And you know it.
I know it. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. We make something of it together.
Yeah. With every page that you turn, you see more of the value of a bird. And it starts with 3 cents, and it ends with many thousands. And here are people who know this is true. Yeah, great. Thank you, Auguste von Bayern. And now over to Sandrine. Sandrine Dixson-Declève from Belgium. How are you?
I'm good, and I am so sorry, people, that I am the one who is between you and your drinks. I apologize already in advance.
No, we want to talk about Earth for All. That's one...
Are you sure everybody wants to listen to this?
These are the hardcore people.
I think we need to do a little jig on stage or find a way to activate the mood, because you started doing that very well, and I want to build on that if I can.
Yes, sure. I'm part of the German Club of Rome now.
Yeah.
You're leading this circle, and Grenzen des Wachstums, the central study it was published in 1972, and now everybody talks about AI. Is AI going to save our ass?
No, AI is not going to save our asses. I'm sorry about that, for a variety of different reasons.
That's why they put us in the end of the session.
Unfortunately. So maybe I'll speak a little bit more loudly. AI will not save our asses.
That's very personal opinion.
Okay? We will save our asses. Or not, and we will decide if AI can be a tool to service people, planet, and prosperity. We also need to learn to kick some ass, and that is why I'm here, to be as provocative as possible.
You have to be aware.
No, I feel that at these incredible conferences, and Steffi, I'm always amazed that she continues to invite me, because sometimes I say some things that a lot of the technocrats that are in this room don't always appreciate, because there are some unbelievable innovators and technologists who truly fundamentally believe that that is what is going to save our asses and save the planet. And I fundamentally believe that's wrong. And if you actually listen to the newest podcast of Mo Gadwat from Google, you will hear that he says the same. And he fundamentally leads us through his process of realization, where he learned very clearly that unless human beings continue to, first of all, put in place a governance system for AI, hence why there has been a letter now by so many who have indicated that we need to govern AI, that actually we've already gone too far, and that our greatest existential risk, and I'm saying this also as a climatologist and as a scientist, could be AI. So this is his premise. I would say it's multiple crises and dependencies, both AI and our extractive economy. But I think that it's really important that when we come to these conferences, we bring back the important value of people. So we published The Limits to Growth. But what most people don't know is we also published No Limits to Learning. Mm-hmm. And the theme that has come out of your beautiful talk has been knowledge, has been Jane Goodall, who I also met. And the corollary of what you indicated of Jane Goodall is she said very clearly, we are supposedly the most intelligent species, but we're not the wisest. So where does knowledge come in? And what is real innovation? And that is what we need to speak about when we speak about AI. How can AI service us without, by the way, all the hidden costs, the high energy costs, and the direct impact with regard to emissions? How can AI come back and service people, planet, and prosperity so that we actually can save ourselves?
I have a brain with me. I hope you too. And I like this.
And this is not your brain that you've extracted at some point as a doctor, you know.
No, but talking about how smart we are, I use this as an example of irreversibility, because this has to do with building a future in our heads and looking back. And one of the hardest things for us to grasp that there are things that will never come back. So if climate change is the fever of Mother Earth, biodiversity loss is Mother Earth's dementia. We're talking about technology, innovation, great. But nature had millions of years to innovate life on this planet. And this is the wisdom in every species there is. And as John Chandler says, we're burning the book of life before we've read it, before we've understood a single thing about all the things that Alexander Kluge talked about. We depend on methane-degrading bacteria on the sea level. Did you know this? I just learned this from Antje Boetius. We have no clue of how many species have been saving our asses so far. And when we are destroying them, we are destroying the web of life. The web of life is carrying us.
The lack of intelligence and the lack of wisdom. And we have become actually our greatest existential risk, alongside what Mo would say is AI. And I would add to Maya's point and to the points that have been made in the last 3 sessions that we've had, that first, we can learn from nature. Second, we are nature. Ubuntu philosophy says we are not separate from nature, which comes back to your very important circle. We have always believed, and this is also something that I found fascinating in Mo's talk and the discussions that I've had with philosophers, is that we've shifted from ignorance to arrogance. And I fundamentally also believe that that is our greatest fault, that we have allowed our egos to take over our hearts and our souls. The greatest tipping points that are before us and you know this because you've read Earth for All, and it's come out in our research, our system dynamic modeling. The big aha moment in my conversation with scientists was, holy shit, it's not the planetary boundaries. It's the social tipping points. Yep. It's the fact that we are so damn stupid, and here comes the fuck, okay? That we actually believe that by allowing growing inequalities, here's a perfect example. CEO salaries in the United States since 1978 have grown by how many percent? Does anybody know? Give me, how much? 4,000? 1,460. Employee salaries have grown by how much? 18%. Inflation has grown by how much? We all know what it's doing to people's lives and livelihoods here in Europe and the United States. Try Argentina, where it's growing by 2,000%. What live person doesn't realize, whether they be a leader or not, that that is a power keg of explosion? Why do we not realize that people are getting pissed off? Why are we not talking about this? In particular, as we enter the European elections, in particular, as we enter the US elections, and we know that we are very close. You talked about freedom. Maya talks about freedom a lot, understanding democracy. We are about ready to blow away our own democratic processes because we are forgetting to put in place the leaders that are truly going to lead us out of the crises that we have today. That is the holy shit or oh fuck moment that we have before us. Yeah. Are we wise? Hell no. Not right now. Can we be wiser? Can we be more honest? Can we be together? Absolutely. And that's where we need to use these conferences as ways to come together, work together, kick some ass together, and change what's happening right now, because we are very close to explosion.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll quickly change into German, because that's closer to my heart, for 1 second. Diese Europawahl ist verdammt wichtig. Das wichtigste Gesetz für Biodiversity ist der European Nature Restoration Act.
Yes.
Ja? Das wird kaum behandelt. Hier sind ein paar Medienvertreter. Bitte redet darüber.
And our lovely German Werner.
Die Europawahl ist immer so ein bisschen Protestwahl und ein bisschen egal. Aber diesmal kommt es wirklich drauf an. 16-Jährige dürfen wählen gehen. Jeder, der jemanden kennt, der vielleicht nicht wählen geht, hat jetzt eine Aufgabe. Jeder, der eine Reichweite hat im Internet, hat jetzt eine Aufgabe. Und hier ist mein Slogan: Nimm die Oma mit zur Urne. It's only funny
Eckart,
in German.
You really have to translate this, and remember that there are some non-speaking Germans in the room,
I said,
including myself.
yeah. I said, make it a family appointment to go and vote.
Yeah, that I like. No. Okay, and offer things along the way, maybe?
Yeah, all
there
that.
You go. And you can piss on the way, too, by the way. Those of you who can do that
And
quite
so
easily.
if you're interested in forming an alliance for this European voting, make it popular, make it sexy, make it... I've talked to several people about this. Please meet me afterwards. It's really important that we all stand up.
So let's talk about
Over
the
to
hidden
you.
costs, because we
Hidden
said we
costs.
wanted to talk about the
Mental
hidden
health.
costs. Yeah, mental health, suicide. So I don't just say this to be provocative, really. We have the analysis, we have the data, but as, again, was so well stated in your slide, you don't show research to people to change their minds. We've seen that with the limits to growth. We've seen that with 50 years of publications. That is why we actually published Earth for All, when we decided to, and I don't say celebrate the 50-year anniversary, because you don't celebrate something that didn't work. You commemorate, you think, you try to understand where did you go wrong. How is it possible that 100 incredible thought leaders were not able to convince the world that actually the tipping points that were seen in the scenarios of the limits to growth would actually happen in the 2020s? And here we are, facing those very tipping points that were demonstrated. So what we need to do now is we need to understand what are the possible alternative futures. And that means understanding where can we truly put a value on what matters. And that comes back to the hidden costs. That comes back to how we can communicate to people that actually they matter, that access to social services matter, that our economic system is all about shareholder value, not their value, that our economic system is over-financialized for profit, not people, that the way in which we can start to shift the bar is put in place the right taxation, but also get rid of the perversities in the market, the subsidies for fossil fuel companies, the subsidies for industrial agriculture, etc. That is what real wisdom is. That also is exactly what's not happening here. Again, we've got farmers in the street. We've got issues with your train system. For goodness sake, the number of times that I have tried to take a train to come to Munich and Berlin, and every single time it's at least 2 to 3 hours late. This is not functional. When I had a conversation on this stage, actually, with Felicitas and the chair of the Lufthansa board, I was challenged, what was my message to Lufthansa? And my message was, diversify into a train system and stop your domestic flights. That's what we need to do. We need to get people from A to B. We need to make it cost effective. We need to stop enabling wealth generation in the pocket of the few. And this is not a communist plot. This is a reality check that will stop us from exploding and ensuring that we continue to touch freedom and democracy, because if we don't do it fast, we are literally screwed.
Where's the hope?
There is so much hope. I mean, I wouldn't do this if there wasn't any hope. And the lucky thing is that...
Just getting people out of depression into the party mood.
Okay, into the party mood. And you don't even have to drink to have it. The hope comes from all of us. The hope comes from people. The hope comes from the incredible and extraordinary community programs and local programs, the activities that are happening on the ground. The hope comes from innovation, real innovation that we heard about, for example, earlier, that touches people's lives, that thinks about them. And this does not just happen here in the West. In fact, most of it is happening in Africa and Latin America and Asia, where people are really close to the ground. The hope comes from real leadership. My response to Jane was, Jane, I want to prove you wrong. I want to show that we can be wise. I truly believe, though, that that wisdom means that we need to get out of the me into the we, out of the ego into the eco, back into well-being. Because people, and this was the conversation we were going to go to, are dying. We have the highest rate of suicide. We have the highest rate of mental illness across the globe. We have the first generation that's making less than its parents. And I call bullshit on the fact that our economy is actually helping us, because most people will respond, we're doing fine. We are not doing fine. So that is the hope. We can do fine, and I'm supposed to stop. I'm seeing everybody getting nervous. Let's go, let's drink, let's think about the hope, but let's also kick some ass together. Let's be real.
She just said, as long as they're staying, they're
Yeah, no, we don't need to stay anymore. I think I've said my piece.
No, I want... In der ARD bin ich gewohnt, zu Millionen zu sprechen. Heute spreche ich ja hier zu Milliarden.
English.
I'm used to speak to millions of people. Now, it loses in translation. Now, there are many rich people here in this room.
There are millions of people here.
Yeah, and there are some billions to be moved, some trillions as well. So in the financial market, last thing, if you know some people who are really looking for meaning in their life, and they want to have in the future the good feeling that I did everything that I could, including putting my money on something that's really valuable even in the future, we're talking about invest not in part of companies anymore, but invest in biodiversity, for example. Mm-hmm. That's the most valuable thing that we can conserve for the next generation.
Can I answer that?
Reichtum ohne Artenreichtum ist arm. Yeah, please.
So, Anne, which is who's right over there, by the way, put your hand up, Anne. What happened last year? talking about the financial markets, and brought Earth for All to Wall Street. We were in Wall Street. Earth for All was all over the place. And guess what happened that day? It was the last Climate Week day. Actually, the markets had totally shot down. And I said, stop crowdfunding our lives. Start thinking about financial markets that are actually servicing people, because there is no financial market on a dead planet. There are no jobs on a dead planet. There's no investment on a dead planet. Full stop. When I speak to impact investors, and again, there are incredible, Saskia's another one, incredible impact investors that are here in the room, I tell them, stop talking about this being a niche market. This is the market. Make it the market. Impact investment should be the market. When I talk to ESG experts, stop bullshitting me about the S in the ESG. This has to be about society in the economy. This is what we're talking about. We have allowed ourselves to be niche. We need to stop this. We need to make it today the real alternative future. The new economy for well-being, the new financial market for people, planet, and prosperity. That is the hope. We can do it, but if we continue to enable arrogance, ignorance, and power to dictate everything, and we're letting it slide right under our noses, people, right now, here in Europe and in the United States, then we do not deserve the title of being wise. And that's a challenge for all of us.
I think this was clear, wasn't it? And I want one last picture with all of you. Auguste, come. GL, come, please. And I want one selfie with all of these unselfish people who stayed until 7:30 for our discussion.
Let's dance tonight, by the way, because
Yeah.
that's super important.
You're missing out.
Sorry.
There you go.
Can you just flip out a bit?
Amazing.
I'll put it on LinkedIn. Join these amazing people for the party tonight. Bye. See you in Davos.